Yo, what is going on, guys? We are back today for another video, and we're going to be counting down the top 10 best champions in a specific class. However, before we get into that list, I just need to talk about a couple of disclaimers. And that's basically, when it comes to my tier list, that is not just my opinion. That is my channel, my community's tier list. And I use all your guys' thoughts and opinions, plus my own, to go ahead and make that. These types of videos, this is just completely my opinion on top 10 best champs. And my opinion is going to be different than everyone else's. It's going to be different than yours. And your opinion should also be different than everyone else's, because our opinions are based on our own personal experience playing this game. I've been playing this game for almost like 7 years, and no one is going to have the same exact game experience as me throughout all those 7 years. We all pulled different champions. We've all put in time into different champions. We're all in different communities and see different things. So like, there's no way we should all have the exact same opinions, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. So if you disagree with this, that's fine. That's normal, to be expected. Let's just keep things nice and civil in the comments. And yeah, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright guys, let's go ahead and dive in now to the top 10 best mutants in Marvel Contest of Champions, in my opinion. So, before we get into the actual list though, we have the most honorable mentions of any of these videos, because the mutant class, man, there's so many like solid champs that like just don't get talked about and like aren't even going to make the top 10 list because there's just better champs. But these champs are really good. So, for our very first honorable mention, we have the King of Atlantis, Namor. So man, Namor, he's great. He used to be, I used to regard him as like the best mutant in the game for a while. Like, it was him and Omega Red. And I even made a video one time comparing the two, and I made up like criteria to do like a comparison type of video series. I had it all like uploaded and everything, but I never posted it. I don't even know why I never did. But it's crazy to think how like years and years ago I was comparing Namor and Omega Red, like, and it was close. Whereas today, Namor doesn't even make this top 10 list, but Omega Red does. Spoiler alert. So, yeah, shout out to Namor. The only downside about this guy is he needs Sig 200. But if you invest the Sigs, take him Sig 200, he's incredible. And he just turns off BS. He's an anti-BS champ, which is fantastic, because there's a lot of BS in this game that is super annoying. Just unavoidable damage that you can't do anything about. But Namor can. Max Sig, he just turns it off. I used to use Namor for so much stuff, especially in like Act 6. Act 6 in its prime was tough. It was tough. And Namor, dude, like, there's so much annoying degen and all kinds of stuff, and Namor would just reflect it. Not only does he turn it off, he throws it back at him. He reflects the damage. So shout out to Namor, man. Shout out to Namor. And ever since like Atuma was added and rebalanced, like, I feel like Namor stock has just been going up. And I feel like it's going to continue to go up. I feel like Namor would make a really great 7-star. However, aside from the signature ability, if 7 stars came at max Sig, Namor would be such a good 7-star, such a good candidate. But yeah, having to actually invest that much into him, he wouldn't really be a good 7-star for a couple of years. And yeah, I don't even really want to invest in the 6-star. So Namor gets an honorable mention. Alright, that's long enough. Let's move on. So next honorable mention we have is another champ I think would be really, really great as a 7-star. Where is he? There he is. And that's Havoc. So man, I'd say Havoc is within the top 5 most underrated champs in the game. Like, no one talks about Havoc, but they should. Like, Havoc is an extremely well-rounded character. Honestly, I feel like maybe I should have put him higher. Maybe I should have put him on the list. I might be underrating him right now myself. But Havoc is just such a beast, dude. He really is. He's very well-rounded. He has solid utility, He has big damage. He's a good defender. He's a good attacker. He can take Korgs. He can take things. He can do all kinds of stuff, man. All kinds of stuff. Shout out to Havoc. He's great. I think I would love a 7-star Havoc, dude. Oh, that'd be such a good champ to have as a 7-star, honestly. Sometimes I even forget Havoc exists in the game, which is sad, because I just don't see people use him much. But when they do, I do see him in the occasional Battlegrounds deck, and whenever he's used, it's usually with success. So, man, shoutouts Havoc, special honorable mention there. All right, and the final honorable mention we have is a Sunspot, and some people might get mad about that he's not any higher in the list. Personally, I think Sunspot is one of the most overrated champs in the game. The opposite of Havoc. You know, Havoc's super underrated. I think Sunspot is super overrated, or at least I think he really used to be. I think he was way too overrated for a long time. The only thing Sunspot has going for him, and the only thing that saved him, is the fact that he's now a 7-star. If Sunspot didn't come back as a 7-star, I'm telling you, he would be completely irrelevant, and no one would talk about him anymore. They just wouldn't. But because he's a 7-star, that's a big deal for him. But even still, I can't put him on my top 10 list. I really don't think Sunspot is that guy. You know, he's got the damage. That's about it. People will say he has utility, you know, perfect block. It's like, yeah, sure, okay. Let's say he has perfect block as his utility. It's not that good, but not as good as actual perfect block. But sure, even still. And what, incinerate immunity? That's pretty lacking, especially when we're talking about the mutant class. The mutant class is jam-packed full of all kind of unique abilities and so much different kind of utility. So Sunspot's just not making the top 10 list. He's not. But he gets an honorable mention because he's a 7-star. That's the reason. Alright, let's go ahead and now get into the number 10 spot. And that is the boy Stryfe. So, Stryfe is a very interesting mutant. He gets called Batman, which, you know, to be fair, there's a slight resemblance between him and Batman, you know, especially the arm spikes. That's very Batman-esque. But yeah, Stryfe, man, Stryfe's a cool champ. He is definitely built for more so long-form content. That's where you can really get the most out of him. Kind of similar to Aegon in that respect. And he's definitely comparable to Aegon in a place like Abyss. But the great thing about Stryfe, you know, is he's unlike Aegon. He's not just a potato outside of an area where, you know, he really needs to ramp. So outside of Abyss, you know, Stryfe is still good. I remember Swadia made war videos using Stryfe, showing off all kinds of really cool stuff, intercepting rhinos, like, just doing some cool stuff. Stryfe, he's a great champ. I really don't know a ton about him. I don't play him a bunch personally, but I do highly rate him. And again, this is another champ I think would scale really well as a 7-star. And one of the great things about Stryfe is that he doesn't need to be awakened. I remember using an unduped Stryfe to complete some Abyss Karina challenges, and he crushed it, man. He was very simple, easy to use, and he did it well. Did it extremely well. Got all kinds of utility baked into his kit. So that's Stryfe coming in at our number 10 spot. The number 8, 9, and 10, honestly, I've been mixing them up. They could go either way, depending on who you ask. But that's number 10. Let's go jump in now to the number 9 spot, and that is a brand new champion in Dani Moonstar. So she's still very new, so I couldn't justify putting her any higher than this, but I do think she has a lot of potential. I really do. She has a very, very unique ability through her signature, where the Neuroshock can be used to basically just turn off champs that cheat death. So, you know, Hercules, your Hellas, and most notably the Nick Fury. Not cheat death. He has a completely second other life. If executed properly, Dani can just completely turn all that off. That is some serious utility. That is some serious utility. Like I said, definitely does have to be set up though correctly. It is easy to mess up. So this is definitely bit of an asterisk on this placement that, you know, she takes some skill and know-how to get the most out of. And a little bit of RNG to line things up correctly. But even still, even when things aren't lined up perfectly, even though when you're not trying to counter cheat deaths or second lives, her damage output is just ridiculous. It's really, really good, especially paired with a 6-star Gambit relic. Ooh, man, you see some big fat yellow numbers, and it's crazy. Very minimal buildup for max damage if you get a full crits. Like, you're talking 500k damage in like less than 30 seconds, or like less than 45 seconds. Like, it's ridiculous. It's truly ridiculous. Plus, she does have a slow, which is some nice utility. But what makes that even better is it's not just your standard slow debuff. It's a slow passive. Slow passive is a million times better than a slow debuff. I'll take a slow passive over a slow debuff every single and any single day of the week. So that's Dani Moonstar coming in at the number 9 spot. All right, let's go ahead and move on now to the number 8 spot. And that is a favorite champ of one of my officers. And that is Professor X. So my buddy Manuel, he uses his Professor X. I believe it's a 565. And he just fights war bosses with him. Throws on a mutant power back boost. One of these bad boys right here. And he just cycles special 3s. Special 3, special 3, special 3, special 3 until the war boss is dead. And he makes it look easy. He makes it look like a joke. And it's it's crazy to see. He's taken so many different kinds of bosses just with Professor X. And it's honestly very, very impressive what he's capable of doing. Professor X is definitely a champion where you need to know what you're doing. It definitely takes a little bit of skill to play and just know how to get the most out of him. But if you can do that, like, he could even be higher on this list. Like, he's a pretty impressive champion in the right hands. Definitely has to be in the right hands. And he does have some really nice base level utility as well. Once he gets enough charges, I believe he just counters miss and evade. And he's immune to reverse controls. So, you know, that's really, really nice. So it's the channeling charges. Yeah, above 25. Professor X cannot be evaded, and he gains a vigilance passive by countering miss. So the ability to counter miss and evade, that's massive, and it's very simple and easy to get to that point as well. So it's very nice utility paired with just bonkers damage, again, if you know how to get the most out of him, with activating and refreshing all of his prowess. Big, big special damage. Throw in a mutant power back boost, and it's overkill. So that's Professor X, just quite the champion, landing in our number 8 spot. All right, let's go ahead and move on now to our number 7 spot. And that is... this one's actually tough. I might change my mind on this. Do I want to change my mind? Honestly, yeah. Yeah. Magneto. It was going to be someone else. Magneto was going to be the next one. But coming in at number 7, we have Red Magneto. Now, you might be thinking, like, dude, Red Magneto is such a beast. Why is he not higher? And that's true. He is such a beast in his right matchups. Now, to be fair, his right matchups is like a third of the game, which is just champions with the metal tag. Very, very common tag. Probably one of the most common tags in the game outside of, you know, like, villain and hero. So, yeah, Magneto's awesome. And I'd say, you know, like, I'd say Magneto was in his prime, like, soon after the buff. And back then, I would say Magneto was, like, a top 3 best mutant in the game. Undisputed. But as the game has evolved, you just don't see Magneto too often. You really don't see him too often. And I don't... would we see a 7-star Magneto? I don't know. I feel like he's so powerful, we might just not see him. He is great at what he does. You know, against the metal matchups, he has... he lowers their ability actually by, what, 70%? Yeah, 70% ability accuracy reduction. That is a lot. And 105% regeneration rate. So he completely, basically, heal blocks champs if they're metal. He actually inverts it a little bit, teeny tiny bit, by 5%. It's really that ability accuracy reduction. And also, he has, I think, what, 50% perfect block against metal opponents. Yeah, 50% perfect block chance. That isn't really nice. That's some massive utility right there. But 50% is not the most reliable number, you know? Damage can definitely sneak through that block, even against metal opponents. But yeah, also, you know, you hard counter, auto block, and miss if they're a metal opponent. So, and you also can turn off class disadvantage, which is incredible because, you know, a lot of metal champs belong to the tech class, incidentally, which is, you know, a big disadvantage for mutants normally, but Magneto can just completely shut that off, which makes him also very unique in that regard. And Magneto's great. I just don't think he has aged that well. That's it. I think he's a really great champ. I think he's solid in his matchups. He wrecks them. I just don't think he's aged that well. And what I mean by that is, like, he's just not used very often, especially nowadays. Like, I would say White Magneto is used more than Red Magneto. And Red Magneto is better than White Magneto on attack, especially in metal matchups. However, White Magneto has his guidance that makes him extremely useful in day-to-day scenarios. So I just think for all those reasons, Red Magneto is just, you know, not exactly what he was when he was buffed in regards to, like, the vast majority of the game and the current meta, the current state of the game. So for all those reasons, Magneto's landing in that number 7 spot. I definitely think he could make a big comeback one day, especially if we start seeing, like, a bunch of crazy, annoying defenders that are metal. Definitely see a resurgence in the Magneto, but for now, it looks like he's taking the back burner. But I wouldn't be worried. I feel like he will definitely make a return to the meta one day. But yeah, that's number 7 spot. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Now, this is a champion that has aged crazy aged, and that is Domino. Now, Domino also coming back as a 7-star is a very big deal. Very, very big deal. Domino's definitely a community favorite champion, and for good reason. Now, I'd say Domino has also been probably one of the most bugged champions ever in the entire history of the game. I feel like there's been more things and more changes to Domino than just about any other champ. And I think it's just simply because she's so different, like matchup to matchup. It's kind of hard to know if what's happening is supposed to be happening with her. I think that's the main reason why there's been so many different issues and changes with Domino and her kit. But, like, literally, like, take a look at her kit and just, there's so much information in here. There's so much going on, so many little things. It's just crazy. Like, I find out about a new ability Domino has, like, every year. Like, every single year. This year, it was with her special 2. It gets way more damage if you've had a bleed on you in the fight. The second bullet point there. If Domino is lucky, this attack has plus 4,000 attack rating if Domino suffered from bleed at least once this fight. I never knew that. And the only reason I learned about that is because there's actually a new relic that can capitalize on that bullet point, which is the Mr. Sinister relic, which applies a bleed debuff to the user that deals 0 damage. So that bleed debuff, boom, that means Domino has had that bleed effect. So if she throws the special 2 when lucky, she's going to gain 4,000 extra attack rating. Plus, she can also shrug said bleed debuff off and get power gain for it. So Domino literally just keeps getting better. She just keeps getting better. And as a 7-star, even crazier for her because of the stat focus. Stat focus is crazy, and you know, you can increase your crit rate, you can increase your special damage rate, you can do whatever you want. I think crit rate would probably not be a bad idea. But yeah, Domino, just crazy. I remember she came out, it was 2018? Yeah. I remember I was on vacation at the time. I was in Florida. I think it was actually at I remember I was at, like, Disney World, like, in line, and I was trying to read and understand all of Domino's abilities, and there's just so much. It was way too much to try to read standing in line, you know. Yeah, I just think Domino has really aged so well. You know, when back in the day, she was looked at as an attacker. You know, you'd put the Red Hulk synergy with her. Also, she just has a million synergies. But the Red Hulk synergy mainly, and then if you also had another spot, you could pair it up with a mcoc, and your heavy attacks will just deal so much damage. It is ridiculous. She became like a top 5 damage dealer in the game at the time, just with a synergy. It was just absolutely bonkers. And over time, she has gained a lot more value, I'd say, defensively. Domino is just one of the worst defenders in the entire game because no Domino fight, not a fight, but most Domino's fights, don't go exactly the same. Little things happen because Domino she's an RNG champ. It's literally her thing. It's luck. So you can get lucky, you can get unlucky when fighting. You can get bad RNG. You can get completely screwed. You can also get good RNG and have like a perfectly clean and flawless fight, and then do it again like 2 minutes later, same exact fight, and things can go really wrong. So that's what makes her such a powerful defender, and just the fact that it's uncertain. The outcome is uncertain. That's what she does. And especially with Battlegrounds now, her stock as a defender has only shot even higher. Like, it's crazy. It's just crazy. And yeah, just being a 7-star, freaking Domino, man. The only thing kind of slightly holding her back, as a 7-star is the SIGs. You obviously want Domino as high of a SIG as you can because you get more damage. Unavoidable damage, by the way, unless a specific champion is immune to that, which there's not that many. So yeah, that's why, for all those reasons, that's why I have Domino clocking in at the number 6 best mutant spot and even above Red Magneto. Alright, let's go ahead now and get into number 5, the 5th best mutant in the game, and that is Omega Red, in my opinion. So, Omega Red's another one that I don't think has aged that well. I don't think he's aged poorly, per se, but I don't think he's aged nearly as well as he could have. I used to regard Omega Red as definitely one of the best champs in the entire game, actually. Like, I used to regard him as like a top 5 champ in the whole game. It's because his damage is extremely unique. Pretty much the only counters to it are robots, and robots tend to be in the tech class. So, that's not that big of a deal, weakness-wise. However, Omega Red there's just so many more mutants now that do have either aged more or just do more than Omega Red. Omega Red has those tentacle hits, which are some really nice utility to counter thorns and that sort of thing. His heavies, his mediums, and I believe his special ones are all tentacle, regarded as tentacle hits. And when Omega Red, he was an option in the vote to become a 7-star, and I voted for him. And people call me crazy, man. I got so much flack for that. But I highly rate Omega Red. And, people are just like, he needs 6, though, as a 7-star. And it's like, yeah. But the sooner we get him as a 7-star, the sooner we can start getting SIGs into him. Like, if you keep prolonging that, you're only going to make the process worse. So, I don't know. That was my mindset. Just wanted to get him as a 7-star as soon as possible. But he didn't win. Colossus won. Who, surprise, surprise, is not on this list. I guess, shout out and honorable mention to Colossus. I really don't rate Colossus very highly, especially in the current state of the game. Again, Colossus, another one. Like, when he was buffed, he was in his prime, and he was a top mutant champ. Now, I don't see anyone ever using Colossus. Like, especially in Battlegrounds, you don't see it. I remember there was like one Battleground or one Alliance War season where Colossus had a good tactic working for him, but yeah, I don't know why we're talking about Colossus now. Anyways, we're talking about Omega Red. Omega Red does also have a synergy that I would say he is a little bit reliant on. He doesn't need it, but if you see someone using Omega Red in Alliance War, they're going to have this synergy right here with Sabretooth or Deadpool X-Force, because it increases the rate at which you apply your spores by 30%, and it's 30% longer for the spores to be removed. So this is an incredible synergy. Such a good synergy. If this synergy was in Omega Red's base kit, he would be higher on the list, for sure. But Synergy Reliance, for me, docks you points. I hate champs that are reliant on synergies, because synergies cannot be used in Battlegrounds. That's a big deal. Also, you know, Omega Red ideally does want the Suicide Masteries. However, again, like we talked about with Domino, that new relic is big for Omega Red. Having that Mr. Sinister relic on him, it would be huge as well. To apply a bleed on you, you can activate the death field, deal no damage, to take no damage yourself, and you're dealing much increased damage to the opponent. So Omega Red, I still love him, still highly rate him. It's just it's getting competitive for these top 5 spots, and there's some other beings that I use a lot more, and I think are a little bit better overall, more well-rounded, and just kind of do more. So speaking of doing more, number 4, the 4th best mutant in the game, in my opinion, Apocalypse. Now, if we're talking just about a champ that does a lot, man, Apocalypse, this guy does it all. Like, he really does, man. He literally takes the entire mutant class on his back and boosts it. Like, name another champ that does that. There isn't one. Apocalypse is that guy. Like, he literally buffed an entire class just by existing. Like, the Horseman pre-fight and abilities is easily, well, let's say easily. Guidance is pretty good, but guidance aside, the Horseman ability is the best pre-fight in the game. Like, just for this ability alone, it is insane. The problem is, again, is that, you know, content is the spotlight is not shining on, you know, story content or end game content, or, you know, really anywhere where you would make Horsemans and really truly get the most of this ability. The spotlight is right now on Battlegrounds, and again, this isn't going to work in Battlegrounds. So, you know, if the spotlight was on the types of content I was talking about, Apocalypse would be higher on the list. But since it's not, it's just not as useful, nearly as useful as it could be. However, it doesn't discount the fact this is the most powerful pre-fight in the game. What does this give you? 100% bleed resistance. So boom, you just get an immunity. One of a really good immunity too. Bleed. Okay. Bleed immunity. An indefinite prowess, increasing special attack damage by 50%. 50% damage bonus on specials. Pretty good. 30+% offensive ability accuracy. More ability accuracy is never a bad thing. Go unblockable for 2 seconds when the opponent purifies a debuff. Not the most useful thing, but nice to have. And then the last one. Probably the most underrated aspect of this, and I'd probably say the best. And that is, once per fight, when you would be struck, you just go passively unstoppable for 3 seconds. A pretty big safety net. So the Horseman stuff is just nuts. So insanely powerful. So insanely powerful. And that's not even talking about Apocalypse himself. Apocalypse himself is quite the unit. But again, where he excels is places where he can be built up, and especially long-form content. Apocalypse can gain full immunity to Incinerate, and what is it? It's Bleed, right? Just want to make sure. I really don't play Apocalypse too much, but yeah. So yeah, Bleed and Incinerate. Oh yeah, and Disorient, which, you know, Disorient's fairly rare, but it's still nice to have a champ that can be immune to it. He just has to suffer from these effects for 8 seconds, but then he gains immunity for the entire quest. So in a place, you know, like Abyss, that's a big deal. That is a very big deal. Also, what he gets is each time the opponent evades, a plus 10% chance to bypass evade. So you can build this up. Once you build up to 100, you basically fully counter evasion. Then also, just built in, he has opponents suffer 100% purify ability accuracy reduction. So champs just don't shrug his debuffs, which is massive. And if you really build APOC up, you know, get all his debuffs and then lock them in with a special 3, they become permanent debuffs, which you can get a weakness, a poison, a concussion, and a degeneration. So you get 2 of those debuffs, just dealing damage, again, forever. And then you get a weakness, so just less attack from the defender, and a concussion, lowering their ability accuracy. So, man, APOC, just absolute beast of a champ. Does so much for the mutant class. We just need content where he can really shine. And I think Apocalypse would be, oh my god, a ridiculous 7-star. An absolutely ridiculous 7-star. Because his awaken ability is like useless. Is one of the most useless awaken abilities in the entire game. Basically, if he just, you know, takes a break from fighting, when he enters the next fight, he gets some regen. Not a big deal. Again, if we're in an area where you're questing, potions exist. So, yeah, just pretty much the worst, one of the worst signature abilities, most useless ones ever. So, APOC as a 7-star rank 1 or rank 2 unduped APOC, he's going to be putting in so much work. Yeah, he would be an incredible 7-star. All right, that's our number 4 spot. Now we're getting to top 3, my top 3 picks. And so number 3, we have one of my favorite 7-stars on my entire roster, and that's Bishop. So I truly believe Bishop is a top 3 mutant. If you asked me that, like, at the start of the year, I would not have agreed with you. But now, yeah, after taking Bishop to rank 2, nuts. And I think, actually, I made this list a little while ago, before there's a bunch of Bishop videos going around. But now that they are, I'm actually just going to use that as evidence for this ranking. Go look up Realm of Legends Winter Soldier record kill, and you'll see a bunch of videos pop up killing Winter Soldier in 6, 7, 8 seconds. Less than 10 seconds, Bishop is killing Winter Soldier. If that doesn't, you know, prove the point that Bishop's top 3 mutant, I don't know what can. Like, that is such a feat. It's just ridiculous. And a big part of it is due to these synergies. He can basically start with 2 bars of power, and with one special 2, he can one-shot Winter Soldier, which is over 500,000 health. Like, just insane. Just insane. Bishop has a really great mutant ability that a couple other mutants have, basically, where if the opponent shrugs a stun debuff, you know, you parry, they shrug it. We're talking like, you know, Korgs, Agent Venoms, Kingpins. Really annoying, you know, you try to parry them and they shrug it. Well, Bishop will replace that stun debuff that they shrugged with a stun passive and just deal a burst of damage to them. He's like, no, you're not shrugging my stuns. And he punishes them for it. And that is such a good ability. Again, especially for fighting Korgs. Bishop's a tremendous Korg counter, one of the best defenders in the game. Not to mention, Bishop also has regeneration. So, you know, he can heal. And the damage is just ridiculous. And on top of everything that we've already talked about, Bishop is also an absolute menace. An absolute menace on defense. He's like the only mutant that the ultimate mutant slayer in the game can't even barely touch. That's Nimrod. You know, I'm pretty sure... yeah, every single mutant on this list, Nimrod would one-shot in a special 2. Not this guy. Not this guy. Bishop's not getting one-shotted by a Nimrod L2. Nah. It's not happening. Nimrod's going to be the one taking damage if he's trying to shock my boy Bishop here. So, Bishop is just such an incredibly well-rounded champion. There's so much going on, so much in his kit, and it works. It really works. You got some nice utility, some nice damage, some regen. and he's a defender. Like, what more do you want? And I think 7-star Bishop specifically, really top 3 mutant because of the stat focus. You can increase your chance to crit. Higher increased crit rate means just way more damage on your special 2s in the long run because more are going to crit. And the difference between a non-crit and a crit on Bishop Special 2 is so massive. So massive. So if you just get 1 crit, fat damage. I love Bishop, man. Just love my 7-star Bishop. I made a video showcasing some 7-star Bishop gameplay. So if you're still calling cap on this rank 3 Bishop placement, go watch that. See what it's all about. Or go watch some of the Rumble Legends record kills with Bishop. I know Andy and Fintech made some. So check those out. Bishop, just an absolute beast. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to the number 2 spot. And that is a champion that has truly aged. Probably better than like any other champion in the game. And that's Archangel. And I should say, like, without being buffed or anything. So I'd say Magic has aged extremely well, but she was buffed at one point. Archangel, he's never been buffed. And top 2 mutant easily. Honestly, I was even debating putting him in the number 1 spot. I was. Because Archangel is just that guy. If they can be bled and they can be poisoned, Archangel is going to melt them. And it's pretty much as simple as that. There's a little bit more nuance to him. But basically, if they can be bled and poisoned, Archangel is going to steamroll them. And that's just what he does. That's just what he does. The damage output is just ridiculous, especially if the RNG lines up for you. It's just bonkers. And then just Awakened, Sig 1, Archangel. For just having a neurotoxin active, he's going to go ahead and it's going to act as a heal block, which is tremendous. Just turn off healing with 1 neurotoxin. Very, very nice ability to have at any Sig with him. And then the higher the Sig, your Archangel, the more ability accuracy reduction each neurotoxin is going to grant you. So you ideally max Sig, of course. But, you know, in a realistic scenario, you just kind of want to aim for the Sig level I'm at here, which is 33.333% repeating. Because if you have 3 neurotoxins, you know, that's going to be 99.9999999% repeating, which is basically 100%. So once you have 3 neurotoxins with Archangel, you can pretty much rely on turning off all of your opponent's abilities, which is insane. So you got damage, turning off your opponent's abilities, and they're heal blocked. And you just win the fight. Fairly quick, too. Like, Archangel is just, it's nuts. He's so simple, yet so effective. And the cool thing about Archangel is that he fell off for a time. And when he first came out, he was comparable to Iceman. People had debates, you know, who's better, Archangel or Iceman? And there was a valid argument on each side. Obviously, in today's state of the game, that's a one-sided argument. But back then, there was validity to it. But yeah, Archangel did fall off for a time. And the reason for that being was years and years ago in Alliance War, you know, this was before Battlegrounds existed, before a lot of things existed. This was when, you know, Alliance War and Alliance Quest were a much bigger deal because there just was not that many other modes, not many other things to do. So a major focus was on Alliance War, especially during the first like 10 Alliance War seasons. But back then, the war map was hidden. So it was just question marks everywhere. You didn't know who you were fighting. And there was some ways around this with some masteries called the detect masteries, which could tell you some stats about the opponent. And there's class ones, so it would show the class. But that was about as far as you could get. So that really decreased Archangel's viability and his stock, because what if you take him into a matchup and they have a bleed or a poison immunity? He's not going to really do anything, and you're probably going to die. But once that was changed, it wasn't even supposed to be a permanent change. It was supposed to be a temporary change initially. I'm like 99% sure about that. But Kabam decided to just leave it all open. And that was such a big deal for Archangel, because you could see it scout a path, be like, oh, okay, I'll bring Archangel for this fight, this fight, this fight. Oh, bleed or poison immunity. Okay, I'll bring someone else for that. And you're good. So that was a massive, massive, massive stock skyrocket for Archangel. And then I'd say, with Battlegrounds, Archangel stocks has gone through the roof. He's just such a nuke. He's so good for Battlegrounds. Him and Torch are regarded as like two champions, probably like two of the most banned champions, because a common strategy is just to take them off the table, to really, because it really changes the whole like mental battle of like a draft and everything. If Archangel and Torch are on the table, it changes so much. It affects so many different champions. The way you draft, the way you pick attackers, the way you pick defenders, just changes everything. So the fact that a character like that, just by their presence, has that much sway in the most competitive mode and biggest mode in the game, like that is saying a lot. And again, I was close to putting Archangel at number 1. But that's Archangel in the number 2 spot, because the champion in the number 1 spot, which you guys already all know who it is, I'm sure, is Kitty Pryde. And the reason Kitty Pryde is the best mutant in the game is because she's just broken. She has one of the most busted and broken abilities in the entire game, second to only the one and only Hercules. What makes Kitty so busted? Her phase. Now, unawakened, Kitty has, I believe it's 70%. Let's see here. Does it say? 80%. So she takes 80% reduced damage while phasing. And that is valid. Like, I think if that's just all Kitty had, there's no way to get over 80%. I think she'd be balanced. I think she'd be a balanced, fair champ. Nothing crazy. She wouldn't be number 1 on this list. She wouldn't. Kabam wouldn't have said they wanted to nerf her. And everything would be fine. But what really changes and really takes Kitty to the next level is once she's awakened. Because what that does is that 80% damage reduction completely changes. It changes to something entirely different, which is well phased, take no damage from any source. Any source. What that means, the way you read that and the way you interpret it is differently. What I want you to think when you read that, as I just want you to think of an indestructible passive. That's what I want you to think of. Anytime Kitty is phasing, as long as she's awakened, that phase is an indestructible passive. It just is. It's even better than an indestructible passive. And like we already said in this video, I think it's this video, indestructible is, maybe that's a different video actually. I've recorded a lot of videos today. But indestructible is the best ability in the entire game. Like, you're just immune to damage. And so just awakened, Kitty has that. And in the hands of a skilled Kitty player, she can stay phased for easily over 80% of the fight. And that's a low ball number. So just like think about that. For more than 80% of your fight duration, you're just immune to damage. Like, it doesn't get much better than that. It doesn't get much more broken than that. The only thing that gets more broken is Hercules' immortality and the fact that you can pause it. That's the only thing that compares to this. It's just one of the most busted abilities in the entire game. It's so ridiculous. And even still, it's not that crazy because it takes skill to play Kitty and to retain that phase, keep it active, and to keep a high uptime on it. It definitely does take skill. But then, if you don't have the skill, well, just turn to the synergies and throw Tiger on the team. Because then, all you need to do is build to 10. 10 prowess. Just very easy to do. You could parry 10 times if you want. Just do a couple combos. Every crit's going to give you a prowess. Just get to 10. You can intercept. That's the fun way to do it. That's the way I like to do it. It's faster too. But whatever. Do whatever you got to do and just get to 10 prowess. Not that difficult of an ask. Once you're at 10 prowess, you go God mode. Kitty God mode. And that is even more broken than Hercules, in my opinion. But of course, that takes a synergy. So it's not just a base kit ability. Obviously, it's useless in Battlegrounds, which is what I really care about. But anywhere else where you can have this synergy, this is the most broken synergy in the game. Like, because every time you phase above 10 or above prowess with the synergy, you're now, again, phasing is indestructible. So you're passively indestructible. And then with this synergy, while you're indestructible, you're also unblockable. So now, you're immune to damage, and your opponent can't even block you. So that makes it so much easier, because all you have to do is dash forward. Boom, you're unblockable. You're immune to damage, so you break your opponent's block. You can do up to 3 hits while having the phase still active, so being immune to damage. So boom, do anywhere from 1 to 3 hits. Dash back. Dash straight back in. You don't need skill to do this. Just dash back in. Create enough distance to phase again. Then you're indestructible once more. And unblockable once more. Rinse and repeat. And that's it. It's just the most busted thing in the entire game. It's crazy. And that is why I highly rate Kitty and rank her as the #1 best mutant in the game. Because it's just so busted. It's so overpowered. It's ridiculous. It is just insane. That's Kitty Pryde. And that is the top 10 best mutant... I would say Mystic. Top 10 best mutant champions in MCOC, in my opinion, in the halfway point of 2023. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Drop a like if so. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Subscribe if you want to see more. If you want to see more content. Let's keep it civil in the comments, though. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.